Hey, so I'm back with another Game of Thrones review. This is Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 6 review. I'm a little late, it's Tuesday. Normally I do these on Monday, but it's because I couldn't get my internet to work yesterday, but we finally got to see the episode today. Oh my gosh, I know I feel like I say this every episode this season, but seriously, this has been the best episode of Game of Thrones so far. The light of the thing is reflecting off my glasses. Anyways, it has been the best Game of Thrones episode so far. So intense. So we started off in the beginning. I remember this really well because we had to restart the episode multiple times because of my stupid internet. And it kind of goes across the table, Daenerys's war room, and then it goes to the fire, and it seems cut straight to the party of people in the north, which includes Jon Snow, we've got Jorah, we've got Gendry, we've got the Hound, we've got Thoros of Myr, and that guy that he always brings back. We've got Tormund, and I mean, it's a really epic group of all these bad A guys and these characters that I like and stuff, and that I think a lot of other fans like too. So they're walking in the north, and as they're walking, it kind of jumps between character conversations within that list. So I can't remember specifics, but I mean, Tormund and Gendry and Jon Snow are all talking about how Gendry's never seen snow before, and they're talking about how cold it is and stuff like that. Interesting dynamic there. Jon Snow and Tormund talk privately about random things, and I think Daenerys comes up in that conversation, which is interesting because I still ship Daenerys and Jon Snow. Oh my gosh, it's killing me. So at some point, Tormund and the Hound talk, which is a weird dynamic, but basically kind of just being men back and forth and seeing who would beat who and everything. And then Gendry and the Brotherhood talk, and they're asking him if he's still mad, and he's like, of course I am, kind of thing. And so a bunch of men talk there. And then Tormund and the Hound basically talk about how Tormund's in love with Brienne. So Tormund mentions everything about how he's in love with Brienne, and it's hilarious because it's Tormund in love, and so Tormund is just Tormund, it's the way he is. So I keep walking. It flashes to different points. At one point, Daenerys and Tyrion talk about different things, and they're just getting really close and stuff like that. At the end, Daenerys kind of puts him down because she's listened to him, and he lost Highgarden, and he lost Casterly Rock or whatever, and there's been so many things that he made, mistakes that he made, and he's trying to counsel her to to pick a successor in case something happens to her and she doesn't want to do that, pick a successor till after she actually has the crown, which I can understand his perspective. I don't know, I kind of see Tyrion's perspective more on that, because if she dies, who's gonna take her place, who's gonna continue where her work left off, and what, everything else. So that happened. Sansa and Arya are kind of arguing. Arya found a note that Sansa wrote back from season 1, where Cersei and all them forced Sansa to write a note pleading to Robb to bend the knee to Joffrey. And it literally sounds like she's in love with Joffrey and, on their side and everything, but it was basically she was kind of forced into it. And Arya's being stupid, which I don't know if I see her perspective. I think I take Sansa's side more in this. Sorry, guys, if you're on Arya's side. I like them both, and I hate it when they fight. I really do. And she's mad at Sansa, basically, because she feels like Sansa because Sansa, did what she wanted. And she doesn't believe that Sansa was coaxed and everything. And, Arya is being kind of cruel to her, knowing that everything Sansa went through and what she endured. And Sansa kind of tells her about that. Sorry about my phone going off. So Arya basically threatens to show that to all the lords in the north. So Sansa goes to Littlefinger for advice, and Littlefinger suggests Brienne. And throughout this, it's seen cutting back to the men in the north and everything. And so Sansa summoned to King's Landing, and Sansa sends Brienne in her place, which is weird because she was just talking about how she needed Brienne. And then Sansa goes stooping in Arya's room and finds the faces, and Arya gets super creepy on her, like, those are my faces, and all I'd have to do to know everything about you is to take your face. And she grabs a knife, and then she literally just kind of flips the knife over and then hands it to Sansa, but it's super creepy the way she's acting, and you can tell it freaks Sansa out, and it freaked me. It freaks everybody out. Just Arya's being stupid. And I can kind of see her perspective, though, because I think she's just trying to make sure that Sansa is loyal to Jon while he's gone and everything, which Sansa is, and that's kind of what it sounded like when she was talking to Littlefinger about it. But anyways, I'm still kind of worried about him being mistrustful. But anyway, so we get back to the guys. Basically, they confront a small party consisting of a White Walker and maybe 30 or more dead guys. Big epic fight, and Jon Snow kills the White Walker. There's a few random dudes that die, but they capture the one of the dead guys. Well, when Jon Snow kills the White Walker, most of the people in the party fall dead, which is weird, but there's like one dead guy left alive, so they capture him and tie him up. Oh, before that, meanwhile, the Sansa and Arya stuff is going on, it jumps back to the men in the north, and they encounter a dead bear, basically, from the army. And the bear is, huge, and it kills off several members from their party, no one important. Well, and then it attacks Thoros of Myr, and he gets severely hurt, and he fights it off pretty good, and they all manage to kill it, but it injures him really badly. So the guy that he always brings back to life kind of like cauterizes the wound, and he keeps walking, and then after that he looks like crap, and you can tell that he's not doing too well. But anyways, so flash forward back to where we left off. So they capture the White, but then at that point, like, they see a cloud of like cold winter coming and everything. It's crazy. And a whole army of dead guys are coming, and so they run and run and run, and I'm like freaking out, and they get to the edge of this frozen lake, and the ice starts to crack, but the whole army of the dead's behind them, so they're like, they decide to run anyway. So they run. Halfway through the lake is an island, and they get to the island, and as the dead guys try to pass the island, the ice, starts to crack. So the dead guys like circle them and basically stay surrounding the island, but they can't get any closer to it because of the cracked ice, at least until it freezes back over, which isn't going to take long. So all our men are basically on the island. They're trapped. They can't really go anywhere. Before, as they were running, they sent Jon Snow sent Gendry, like, run back to Eastwatch, send a raven to Daenerys, you're the fastest of us. And then so Tormund takes Gendry's warhammer, because you're faster without it, he says. And so Gendry's running. It shows Gendry. He finally gets back to the wall and gets to Eastwatch, and he tells Sir Davos, and Sir Davos sends a raven. It flashes to Daenerys, and Tyrion is like begging her not to go, and she decides to go anyway, which they fight, but in this instance, I'm like, Daenerys, go! They're all in danger. So she flies on her dragon, and then it seems cuts back to them. They've waited there all night long. In the morning, they wake up. Thoros of Myr is dead. He froze in the night, and they burn his body. And then the Hound starts being an idiot, and he throws rocks at the dead guys, and one of the rocks doesn't make it all the way over, and it lands on the ice and slides across it, and it's solid. My phone is going off again, and it's glitching. Anyways, it slides across the ice, and it literally doesn't sink or anything, so they know the ice is solid now. And so the dead guys, like, one by one, there's like a few of them that literally start coming, and then they start fighting. The men start fighting. It's really intense. Oh my gosh. And then the whole army like surges on them from all sides, and it's the huge epic fight scene. You're worried about everybody. It's really intense, blah blah blah. Daenerys shows up, really intense moment, and where she, fire just kind of flies over Jon Snow, and he, like, ducks, and the dragon comes and burns them all. Drogon comes along with the other two dragons, and, so she rescues them. They are all getting on the dragon. Jon Snow is fighting off guys, dead guys, to hold them off. And then all of a sudden, the Night King grabs like an ice spear and then throws it, and it hurls. And at first, I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna kill Jon Snow. And then I'm like, it's gonna kill Drogon. And then it lands in one of the dragons, which I had read spoilers before this, but I didn't know if they were true or not. It turned out the spoilers were true. Anyways, and the spear lands in Viserys or Viserion, one of the other dragons, and he falls to the ground, and then he sinks under the ice, and it's really sad, and so he dies, and Daenerys is just in pure shock, and Jon Snow tells her to go, and she looks at him, and, you can tell that she doesn't want to leave him, and that she's worried sick about him, and that she's, like, super broken and everything else, but he can't get back to the dragon. The dead guys surge on him and knock him under the water, and she doesn't have a choice because the army is surging on her, so she takes Drogon the survivors, including the White that they captured, are all on Drogon, and so she takes off and flies, and they have have to leave Jon Snow behind. So naturally, I am going berserk, freaking out. Like, I literally just can't comprehend this. So it doesn't really show them getting back to Eastwatch. I really wish that would stop going off. Anyways, it doesn't show them getting back to Eastwatch, but it does show them flying off, and the Night King throws another spear, but it misses. And then it goes to Jon Snow, and he crawls out of the ice. He's freezing cold, and he stands up, and the army of the dead is like surging, is surrounding him. And then all of a sudden, Uncle Benjen shows up, fleeing this. Well, at first we don't know it's Uncle Benjen, but I read the spoilers, and he's fleeing this fire thing and riding toward Jon Snow, and he kind of kills the dead guys that were closer to Jon Snow, and then he gets off the horse and puts Jon on there and tells him to go, and Jon's like, Uncle Benjen and stuff, and telling him to come with me, and Benjen's like, there's no time, just go. So Jon Snow rides off, Uncle Benjen kind of holds off the dead guys, and they surge on him, and it zooms out. Then it shows Daenerys at each watch, and they're like, Jorah is like, we gotta go, Daenerys, and she's like, just wait, and then so she stares out over the wall waiting for somebody. We know she's waiting for Jon Snow, and she looks so hopeful, and you can tell that there's just love in her eyes. And so she turns away, and then you hear the horn blast, and we're waiting, like, oh, is it 1, is it 2, is it 3? And it blasts only once, so she turns around, and there's a rider coming in, and then it scenes cuts to the men as they're tending to Jon Snow, and then it goes back to Sansa and Arya and their whole thing, which I've already told you all of that, and then the next scene is where Jon Snow is lying on a bed, and they're on a ship, Daenerys is sitting by his side, and it's really cute, and he apologizes. He's like, I'm so sorry about everything, and she grabs his hand, and she tells him that she's going to fight with him, and he says that, he basically calls her my queen, and they hold hands, and it's kind of a ship moment, and I really wanted them to kiss, but she stands up. She told him that she can't have any kids. Like, the dragons are the only children I will ever have, is what she says, so I don't know if that was her implying that we can't be together or whatever, but they held hands, so I'm going for it. Major ship moment. And it ends with Viserion being brought back by the Night King. So apparently he is now the Night King's dragon, and it's terrifying, and it's like, oh my gosh. So that's Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 6 review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me what you think about it, what you thought about each of these parts and this whole episode in the comments. Thanks, guys.